Hello, Georgetown. I'm Beverly Enos, and this is Spotlight Georgetown. You can find us on the weekends on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on your local cable station. If you'd like to be part of what we do here, please let me know. We always have someone that's learning how to run the computers or maybe running one of the cameras if you'd like to try your hand at that. And this is your cable station, so you get to come and play and enjoy it. Now, today we're going to be talking to Dave Bogdan, and we're going to be talking about wildland firefighting, and among other things. So welcome. Okay. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you, Beverly.
First, we'll talk about you a little bit. Okay. How long have you lived in town?
I've lived in town since 1979. I moved up here from Saugus, Massachusetts, and so it's 29 plus years, and so I'm a newcomer to town.
Yeah.
By some folks, and yeah, my wife Linda, married 29 years, and so we've lived in the same house on Thurlow Street.
Okay. So, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking first about wildland firefighting.
Okay.
And what is that?
Wildland. It's what I do. Part of my job at the National Park Service. I'm part of a team that goes out with the National Park Service, and along with other agencies from the Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and other state crews. And we go out west when it's a call, when it's a need for firefighters, because the fires are so large, and it's kind of an on-call fire department. Most of us are. We have other jobs, besides going firefighting. And
so we're talking the big wildfires that are out west.
Correct, 10,000,
20,000. Places.
Yes, all out west. The large fires, not the small brush fires where the truck pulls up and they put them out in a couple hours. These last for weeks at a time and they involve thousands and thousands of acres, and usually in remote wilderness areas out west. So
that's not an easy job because you've got to live in that wild area for periods of time.
Right. When you go out, I have it's a 2-week pack, it's called, and in that, my one duffel bag, you might say, when you go on vacation, is one pack. It's limited to 50 pounds, and in that I have to have my clothes for 2 weeks. Time is usually the average time you go out to a fire, and it might take you a day or two just to get to the fire because they're not near an airport. Usually they're 3 to 4 hour rides sometimes just when you leave land in, say, Medford, Oregon, or Redmond, Oregon, or wherever, and you might drive for 3-4 hours just to get to the base camp, which of course isn't next to the fire because it wouldn't be a good place to set up camp. And it's more like a mobile army that's set up there, complete with showers, food, all kinds of logistics, medical tents, and all that. All kind of just all comes together through the Boise Interagency Fire System. Wow. And we're just part of that as a resource, as a human resource. We're a part of that. And usually the way it comes is when there's a fire in a particular district, at a fire, they'll set an initial attack crews out. And that's usually someone that works right there at that forest, and they'll go out and they'll try to contain the fire. And a lot of times it's just so far away, it's just so large, or the weather picks up, whatever, that the fires just get out of control for the amount of people that are at that district office. So
now we're talking, if you're fighting fires without fire trucks and without hydrants and without all of these. How do you put out a fire like that?
The basic way is remove the fuel away from the fire, or where the fire is expected to be. It's called fire behavior, expected fire behavior. So there is some fire trucks, but they're more like a 4-wheel drive pickup truck with a 250-gallon water tank on the back. So you can't rely on water, because out west most of the time it's a drought anyways, and water sources are few and far between. So most of the time it's just removing the fuels and actually cutting a swath of a trail through the woods,
and hope the
chainsaws. Hope the fire doesn't jump it, and the crew, so there's a chainsaw or what else, there's a line scout that figures out where the fire is expected to be, the best place to put the fire line. And then crews with the chainsaws come in, and person crews, like a 20-man crew, will come in, and they'll cut the brush away and dig down to the mineral soil. And hopefully they'll get a line around this fire before it jumps over, And the size of the fire line could be made with a dozer as well, if they're expecting a larger fire or more heat when it bumps up against the line. They'll have to use a dozer. It might be 10, 12, 14, 16 feet wide using a dozer, so you wouldn't use hand crews there. But there are places where dozers can't get in, so they use hand crews. So it's a little combination of both, and you use natural barriers, rock slides, and that type of stuff to get. But I mean, we're talking fires that are 100,000 acres, so the perimeter is enormous. Yeah.
So 100,000 acres. Give us the size of a town of Georgetown, or bigger?
Way bigger. More like closer to Essex County, as in like sometimes we'll try from go to one side of the fire to the other. It's a 3-hour ride. Literally to drive from one side, forest roads, whatever. Sometimes you use state highways, but we're talking miles and miles from one side to the other. And it's not kind of like Hollywood where everything's burnt to a crisp from one end to the other. They punk around and they get in fires, and like on a steep slope, fires will take off and build up heat and really devastate that area. But in other places where it's fires backing down a hill, it just burns on the ground and just kind of smolders. And that's when you try to catch the fire, because you'll never be able to catch it when it's racing up a hill. It's just not going to happen. So in the planning process, they kind of expect where the fire is going to be like on Wednesday, because it's going to take us 3 days just to get a line up to this certain peak. So if we have so many men, it's going to take 3 days to get there. Where's the fire going to be then? So that's where the planning and logistics and the people that stay in the base camp take care of.
So you know that you're going to lose a large part of this forest.
Yes. But lose in a different way, right? It's not always totally gone, correct. But there is fire will get larger, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was in North Dakota a couple of years back for a convention, and we were out visiting the monument. And from the balcony of the hotel, it was, and I'm thinking North Dakota, I figured it was going to be 70s and 80s. It was 95 to 102 every day. And we watched a lightning strike hit the side of the mountain, fire, immediately. You could see this fire, and it was growing and growing. 3 days later, we're driving out of town to go to the airport, and the helicopters were still coming and dumping water and still trying to put the fire out. And I was just amazed, because, you think a fire, you put the fire out. But it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
Not at all.
One of the, logistics is a big thing there. The helicopters aren't sitting, like you say, back at the visitor center waiting to go to a fire. They have to be called in, and then they're prioritized. That's where the center in Boise comes down. Whereas the district will call in and say, we need X amount of resources, whether it's air attack planes and people, engines, and what have you, water tenders to refuel everything. And they'll put the request into Boise, and Boise will see what's on the list, see how many fires, whether, of course, people, property, what's most in danger, water resources, and what have you. Or if it's just woods burning and grazing land, that kind of low on the priority. And then they'll put the call out, and they'll get the people, how quick can they get the people and the resources to that fire. And if we can't get them there for 3 days, where's that fire going to be? Is it then going to be in danger in the town or water supply? So there's people always thinking of these, so it takes a while to get it going.
Now, you didn't start out as a firefighter. How did you get into this portion of what you're doing?
It's in the National Park Service. It was just my superintendent, who used to work in a Western park back in 1986, came upon and asked me, he says, Dave, you red carded it's called. And I says, no, what's that? And he says, well, if you were, you'd know what it is. So I says, what's it all about? And he says, you'll like it, it's adventurous, and it's about firefighting. That's what you get as a red card. And each season, you get this red card. And I went and took a 3-day crash course at Boston University, put on by the Park Service. They put us on a plane, and I was in Oregon the next day, and
Wow.
Out in the woods we went, and come back and going, this is great, I'd love to do this, and I've just kept at it ever since. So
this is 20 plus years for you.
Yes, yeah. So.
And now, how do you get the time to just all of a sudden say, okay, I'm going to go fire to fire?
It's a combination of, you might say, getting to look at your vacation. I don't have a wedding plan in the next few weeks, is when you do go on the list, as it's called, when the availability list. You have to look like 3 weeks in advance, because it's every Tuesday you put yourself on the list. Every week you have to update it. And on that list, you got to think like, well, if they don't call me till next Monday, that's 14 days from that day and a few days travel. So if I've got a wedding to go to or something really important, a graduation, I shouldn't put myself on the list, But I've been called literally out of vacation. We're in Vacation Maine, and they called us, and it's like, and I wasn't even on the list, but they needed people. And I says, all right, and go. And we broke camp and go. But my work is the same thing. It depends how busy we are at work. And can we get away with? And it's a national commitment for the National Park Service to make Park Service employees available to the Forest Service or wherever, because there's no one agency could afford to hire 20,000 plus firefighters to combat the fires. So, you know, it's a mixed agencies as well as contract crews as well.
So what do you do for a real job?
My
What-
real
what
job,
is your real job?
my 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
I'm a woodcrafter, historical woodcrafter for the National Park Service. It's Saugus Iron Works, National Historic Site, and I've been there like 35 years now. And so it's a good job. I like it.
What's a woodcrafter do?
A woodcrafter, we restore the old buildings, the post and beam construction, as well as any kind of plastering. What else? The old-fashioned way. We do a lot of historical maintenance there, and I also work at the Salem Maritime National Historic Site. And right now, I'm replacing the columns on the Custom House out in front. If you drove by on Derby Street, there you'd see one column's missing, and that's what we're doing. We took away as much rot as possible, but keep as much original fabric from the original structure as possible, and we'll have spliced it in and glued and epoxied and make new pieces like that. So it's kind of neat.
So is all that part of the National Park Service as well?
That's all part of the National Park Service. So it's
Okay.
more than just Yosemite. There's a lot of historic sites involved. Boston Navy Yard around here, JFK's home, birthplace, Olmsted's house in Brookline, Concord, Minuteman. It's all part of the National Park Service. So there's actually firefighters from all those different places as well. I'll go out.
So the firefighting is part of your job,
It's part of my job, yes. And it's it's
but
not.
it's a part that you choose.
It's a part I choose. It's
Okay.
not a mandatory thing. It just looks good on the superintendent's resume that she's, opting to let one of her people go, in the busy season of the summer
Yeah.
to go help out someone else. So it's kind of like that, a relief like that.
Are these fires mostly happen in the summer?
Yes, mostly.
Are they a lot of them lightning strikes?
Most are lightning strikes.
Okay.
Most are lightning strikes. I've been in Arizona in February at fires, and I've been spent Thanksgiving down in Virginia because the hardwood forest is where their fires are down there. It's green all summer, but when the oak leaves and whatever fall down, they have a lot of hardwood fires down on the East Coast there.
Okay.
So I spent one Thanksgiving eating out of a truck, and it wasn't good.
Is there a test that you have to take? Obviously, you had the training, but is there a test?
There's
and do you requalify every year?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. There's it's called a PAC test, and it's a refresher. And it started probably 10 years ago, actually probably right after '94, after Storm King Mountain, when we lost the 14 firefighters. They really started getting onto safety and how we can prevent these things from happening. And when they did that, they looked back to what went wrong and what communications broke down and this. So they start now having an 8-hour refresher mandatory that all firefighters, no matter what branch of the government you work in or a contract crew, you have to take this refresher. And it really puts safety first and kind of like looks back to what accidents or what near misses happened last year and how to prevent those, or how to use those watch out situations, we call them. Situational awareness is what they're telling us now. It's kind of like look around you, don't just look down at the ground and see what's going on, you see the fire, what's happening, but what's the weather around you doing, everything, because the environment, you're in the fire environment all the time.
Yeah.
So you want to be changing. And when you start working in the morning, 4 or 5 hours later into the day, you're on a whole different part of terrain, vegetation. You might be at the top of the hill, which isn't always a good place to be if the fire is below you. So you have to pay attention to these things all day long and see where you are. So they do a situation awareness every year, and they also do a pack test where you actually physically have to carry a 45-pound pack for 3 miles, and you have to do it in 45 minutes, and you can't run.
Oh my.
So that's because on a normal day, you're probably carrying 30 pounds of gear with you all the time that you can't just put down because you're not coming back to that spot usually. You're always hiking and moving through the woods. So yeah, it's a good test, but it's...
Yeah, it's not something that you breeze right through.
You don't breeze right through it. No, you don't.
What was the most dangerous situation that you were ever in?
There's a couple, and one of them is we were in a relatively calm part of the fire, which is a dangerous part because you might say people let their guard down just because there's no flames all around you. And we were waiting kind of for our assignment, and we were moving on from one section to another, and a fire been burned for a couple of days, and the roots of the trees burn out as the days go on, and it's just smoldering. And this tree came down probably within 6-8 feet between myself and another guy, and the noise it made is when it hit the ground. So that's like, you never saw it coming, never heard it because the roots aren't breaking up because there are no roots, and just we're talking trees over 100 foot tall, you know, and 3 and 4 feet in diameter, and they crashing down. That was one of the scary things. Like everybody's like, okay. After that, then we had someone do a watch out situation, and as we were working, we had someone actually stop working and keep their eyes up and watching trees, and because we're in an area where it burnt, like I says, and the roots had burnt out, and you don't know it, and you're working on the line, and you know, 30, 40, 50 feet in off the line, that tree could be burning, and you're not paying attention to it, but it will reach the line because they're so tall.
Oh, wow.
We're in Oregon, California last year, and the trees were over 100 feet tall, 150 feet tall, big cedar trees. So that's, you know, the roots are a long way away, so it's hard to see everything that's going around you all the time. And there was another time when the fire behavior that I talked about was expected to get really bad at the afternoon. So it's after lunch, they says no, and taking breaks and keep a better watch. And we were keeping an eye on the fire. It was all on the ground, so it was just a ground fire, flames maybe 3, 4 feet high, and we had plenty of water and all that. But the humidity dropped down to probably 5 to 7%, which is unheard of in the East Coast, and everything just was like a tinderbox. And the fire just started going, and ladder fuels, and right up to the trees, and we had a crown fire like all around us. And we were safe enough to get out. We were, you know, heads up, so we knew it was expected. We were paying attention, and we walked out to our safety area, and our area where it was a big clearing, actually a big log clearing, and we just watched the fire roll. And just once it gets into the crown, there's nothing.
The crown being the top of
the
the
top
trees.
of the trees, and they're just talking about a wall of fire, and it just feeds itself. Fire has its own wind environment and all, and just took off. It ran about 9 miles that day, and we just went back the next day and picked it up when we left before, but. You know, there's helicopters, no water's going to take care of that. That's just nature's way of cleaning up the forest, and a lot of bug kill area. But, you know, we get out of there and safely, and that was good.
Is that part of the thought process that this is just nature's way of clearing out forests and allowing new growth?
It does work that way, and you hear a lot about prescribed fires now, and that's what it's doing. They do a lot of prescribed fires in the off season to try to get rid of the dead, diseased trees that we've suppressed fires for so many years because now people are in there. They don't like a smoky place. They don't want to go to Yellowstone if it's smoke there. Well, right. Over years after years of all that, there's the vegetation that naturally fires, as you spoke earlier, the lightning coming in and cleaning out areas in the off season, you might say. Well, if there's no off season because people don't want fire at any time, well, when the fires do come and it's dry and it's a drought, it just comes and rips right through everything. You have a lot of bug kill through areas, so. And it cleans it out, and the tree it lasts so long, really, when you get down to it. It has a lifespan, maybe 100, 200 years, but then it's going to die and go down, and another one's going to come up. So I've been back this year, actually. I went back to a place in Oregon, and I was there 10 years ago, and you can't even tell there was a fire there. Other than a few blackened stumps. Trees were all 6 and 8 foot tall, all growing all over the place, because now all the sunlight's got down to the forest floor. All that nitrogen from the ash, and the forest has regenerated itself. Have a brand new forest, you know. So it's kind of nice.
That time in North Dakota, the smoke was very difficult. It even got into the air conditioning system in the hotel, and everything was smoky. You came home and your clothes smelled like a forest fire. They smelled smoky, and we were there for a few days for a convention. And it wasn't that far away. It was relatively close. And they were talking whether they were going to have to start moving people. And, you know, everybody's out to see the monuments and the presidents and all of that. And you don't think about that because nobody wants to have a fire when all the tourists are there.
Exactly. But unfortunately, that's Mother Nature's.
That's when it's 90 degrees and hot.
That's when it's hot and dry, yes. So.
What keeps you going back every year, you personally?
The adventure, I guess. It's great. They pay you to see some of the most beautiful places in America. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's just absolutely, you get here and you're just up in God's country like, wow, this is just fantastic. And they're paying me to be here today, you know. Because it's not always smoky and fire. You do get to, a lot of hiking. You gotta like hiking though. You gotta like moving. But you do get to see a lot of places in the country and stuff and things that you just wouldn't. And the people you meet, there's pretty much the same kind of guys as you get older and into the higher ranks. Now I'm into division soup there. And you get to see the same people at a fire. You'll recognize someone at briefing in the morning because they always have a briefing to what's happening for the day's events. And you'll see, I recognize you from another fire, and you talk back and forth. So it's neat to see old friends and stuff like that. But it's always an adventure. It's always an adventure. And you just never know what's coming around the corner.
So this is a very useful thrill-seeking
Yeah.
Some people are thrill seekers. They just love to see, do, and you know, have things that are challenging.
Yeah.
And this has to be one of the ultimate.
It's challenging. It's challenging. It's frustrating at times. You know, you can do a lot days worth of work, and the weather changes or tactics change, and they say, well, instead of saving this line, we're going to go back 2 mountains over and light a fire from here and just, you know, eat up some more real estate. And you're like, we just worked for a week trying to contain this one section, and they decide we can't hold it, and you just go back, and you know, it's the best thing for everything. You know, and money is always a big thing. The cost is really huge. It's, you know, some fires are normally like $1 million a day that cost to go. Uncle Sam, you and I.
Wow.
You know, and there's hundreds of fires. If you ever go on the websites and see, usually you see this on TV, it's because there's homes burning and what else. But during the summer, there's fires all the time. They never report out. But
Now, when
it's
you
very
go
expensive.
out to do these, do the firefighters, do they camp someplace, or do they get motels, or you know, do you eat out of chuck wagons, or do you get to have a real meal?
They do feed you. They do feed. They feed you well. You do eat out of a chuck wagon. There's a catering service that comes in, and they follow the fires around out west. There's catering trucks and there's shower trucks that come in and just outfitted to, you know, probably 30 showers in it. There's always a line, you know, but you're talking 1,500 people in a camp sometimes. So you in a line for breakfast, you know, and you have to be on the bus and go at 7 o'clock in the morning. They make, during the night, there's people that stay up all night making breakfast, making lunches for you, you know, so you have a bag lunch to go with you on the day. And then you come in at night, 8 o'clock at night, and you know, get in line again and you have your chow. And if you want to take a shower, you can, but, you know, usually you put the same dirty clothes on as you, but you sleep in a tent. You know,
Sounds
just
like
in
a
a
MASH
field.
unit.
Right, it's just like a MASH unit. It's pretty much, it's just portable. It's like, wow, they just turn this field into this camp of 1,200 people. And as the fire dies down, it's called demob, and they start letting resources go back to other fires that need them. And the camp just dwindles down to pretty much nothing until just the camp crew's there, and they clean up and they reseed, because we do leave a footprint. There's no doubt about it. You know, and they rent the land usually from the local farmer or rancher or something like that.
Okay.
So. A lot of times it's like $1 a day per person. So if there's 1,000 people in camp, he gets $1,000 a day from the government, you know, to use his property. But like I says, we do beat it up. There's no doubt about it, you know, just by driving the trucks over and parking and everything else. And they'll come in and reseed it and, you know, regrass it, whether it's mostly just grazing land or something like that, you know. And it's usually 10 miles or so or more away from a fire. Unfortunately, it's always in a valley. And the smoke from the inversion during the night, the smoke just all settles in the valley. As you spoke, you know, it's just like, oh, you wake up, your throat's burning. It's like, you know, until the sun comes up, it lifts it up, smoke rises, but when the smoke rises, that means the fire intensity is also picked up. So, you know, you do most of your work in the morning.
So there's a whole science that goes with this.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And it's pretty neat now. And when you're on a fire, like now, when I go out to a crew, I'll have to report in by, say, 1 o'clock to let them know what my needs are for tomorrow as a crew boss, and I'll have like 100 guys working for me. And do I need 2 engines? Do I need a water tender? Do I need a dozer, and what have you? And I let them know what I need, what I'd like to have on my division, and they'll try to get that in the next report and go in, because another division, the fire might be out on the other side of the fire where it started a week ago. So they'll let those resources kind of bring around and come around to another division and move around. So they coordinate this. So that's why you got to let them know what your need is. Then in the morning, you look at your shift plans, and it tells you the weather and all that, and say, oh, let's see what I got today, and hopefully you get it. And they still pull stuff out. We don't have to brief and say, oh, I need that guy still for another half a day. I'll let him go like noontime or something like that. But, you know, it's kind of good. It's fun. I love going.
I can tell.
You know?
You're sitting here. Now, when you're here in Georgetown, you're also on the Board of Assessors.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand what that board does. Just in a thumbnail.
A thumbnail on, we oversee the work that's done by the office manager and the assistant assessor that works in the 2 positions that are in the town. And the 3 board members kind of oversee what their workload is, make sure they're on schedule for reports from the Department of Revenue, and that's really where we get all our rules and regs and what we can and cannot do from the Department of Revenue. They really set the tone, and there are regulations that we can't just do what we want when we want.
But it's basically setting the values of the buildings and the property and the homes.
But we as a board don't do that.
Right.
Correct, the office manager, and we also hire an outside contractor. They come in and they'll, go around to, check the assessment. And it used to be like on a 3-year rotating, so every 9, and we used to do a third of the town. So after 9 years, it'd be back to your house, you might say. But now the DOR has set regulations. Now you do it every year. So of course, manpower, we had to, contract out more and stuff. But then your values aren't so far off.
You don't have as much
fluctuation, yeah, because it's fair for all, fair for the town and everybody else.
But it's the Mass Department of Revenue that sets up all these regulations,
yes.
and your office carries them out.
We carry them out. We just we just carry out what their rules, and they're always changing their policy. It's coming down, and Rose and Jay get their
assessing the
information.
values, which then sets our tax rate.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's all tied in together.
It's all tied in together. Yes.
Not
And
nearly
the
as much
market,
fun as firefighting.
Nowhere near as much. and it doesn't change every day. That's the other thing. It doesn't change every day.
What other parks? We're going to go back to the firefighting because that's much more fun, or to the park service.
Okay.
What other park service areas have you worked in? Now you said you're working right now
I'm working Salem Meriton,
Mass.
right on Derby Street, and I work mostly at Saugus, the Ironworks, where we have the 7 working water wheels there, and it's all run by water power. And
now that's a place that's the Park Service owns it?
Yes, Park Service owns it.
Tourists can come in and look?
Yeah, and it's free. And
I've
it's
never
still
been
free.
there. I guess I have to do this.
It's follow the brown signs.
Yeah, I know where they are.
Behind McDonald's, across from Hilltop in Saugus, through the woods. But follow the brown signs.
Yeah.
And it's 7 days a week. They have tours, and it's still free, so it's good.
And what was that originally?
It's the first ironworks in America back in 1630, all right, 1636, I think is actually date. So 16 years after the Pilgrims landed, they started an ironworks factory right there, foundry, and they smelted iron, all right, and they made cast iron, and they made wrought iron there till 1668.
And they used water power to do it?
And they used water power back then from the Saugus River. Okay. And it's just been diverted over the years, and we still use the water from the Saugus River to run our wheels, but they ran them, of course, all the time, and we, 16-hour days, we run them for, 3-4 minutes at a time, just to give the people to see the water power. It's actually making all the machinery moving, the bellows, the trip hammers, and the rolling and slit mills. So it gets them a sense. It's a small 8-acre park. When you're there, you'd think you're in the middle of the woods. It's all, but it's surrounded right in downtown Saugus. It's really nice.
Whatever made you go into this line of work?
There was a summer job opening. I was in high school, and this fellow I work with in the industrial arts course there, he was a blacksmith there, Alan Rogers, and he's became an industrial arts teacher actually. And he says they're looking for someone to work, doing carpentry work, which I did in school. He says, but it's just of a different kind. So I said, sure, I'll try it out. It's better than working in a machine shop, I guess, all day, and being outside. So I took the job, and I did blacksmithing for a summer there, and it just evolved from there, and learned from the other carpenters. And then there's also a training program they used to have back years ago, and it'd send you for like a 2-week period. And I went down like to Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, and we did work down on the C&O Canal and down in Harpers Ferry, Antietam Battlefield. I worked up in Roosevelt Vanderbilt up in Hyde Park, up at the house in the Vanderbilt Mansion up there. We did work with different epoxies and stuff, and we did mortar work there. So it was all kinds of maintenance work I was doing. So, it was nice. It was traveling around to different parks, worked down at Fire Island National Seashore, and we built a restaurant down there. So
you've worked on a lot of different parks other than just the one in Salem.
Right, based in Salem and Saugus, but they used, sent around, so sent us all these other parks and do different maintenance. And other people would go there too, so they'd really have a crew working and they get a project done like in that 2-week period. Yeah. Something their own staff couldn't get done. Yeah. So it was a training opportunity as well as, it was their job got done.
So what started out as a summer job has become a life of thrill seeking.
I suppose, yes.
But it's become a life's work.
Yep, yes it has, yeah. And now over in Salem, we have, in 1998, we picked up the Friendship. It's a 350-ton East Indiaman, it's called, cargo ship. Did 9 trips to China, back in 1797. And there's a replica was built up in Albany, New York. And in 1998, we towed, because it was just pretty much a barge at that point, just a hull, and it was towed down through the Hudson River, Long Island Sound, up the Cape Cod Canal and into Salem. And since then, along with probably 50 volunteers, incredible volunteer crew that work there, that love sailing ships, have built it, put the masts in, the yards. I mean, if you go down to Salem now, Derby Street, and you see it, it's like, oh my gosh. But that was really a lot of it's done by volunteers, but as well as us, you know, because like the first time I worked on the ship, they go, well, throw the level away because you don't need that here, because there's nothing level on a ship. It's all contoured to fit, and you know, so. But, you know, we built the bunks down below, the captain's quarters, you know, all that. A lot of carvings and stuff did that, you know, and
so
we did the
you've just done all kinds of fun, interesting things.
It's fun, it is. It's fun, yeah. So.
Is there anything that we've missed? This is just...
No, not a whole lot.
I think we've covered all the questions that we had talked about, and this has been so interesting. You know, especially having seen a fire start like that, and never knowing how much work it is, and the putting the package together to have everybody go out, and just amazing.
Yeah, I was like last year. I was in Danvers and watching the 4th of July fireworks, and on the third day, and that's when I got a call. Said, hey, be on a plane at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's like, I was going to go to the Esplanade, but I guess not.
Yeah.
So I came home, made my airplane reservations, and I was on a plane at 6 o'clock the next morning, and, you know, gone for like 21 days, because I was out there. The fires were so bad last year in Northern California. They actually kept us on. They usually keep us on for 14 days straight, because after that, you're pretty fatigued, and you don't always make a clear decision, and you're tired and stuff, and you know, so and you're driving every day. So a lot of accidents, unfortunately, happen, road accidents, and roads are dirt, and they're not very well maintained roads. So they pretty much found after 14 days, everybody takes a rest. So they give you a day off. Sometimes it might just be in base camp, but you're not at the fire, you're not up and going. And then they keep you on for another 7 days, and then you have to go home.
We were talking before we started taping that people say, oh, you live in New England in that horrible weather. And we don't have fires like that.
No.
And we don't have the tornadoes, and we don't have the flash floods, and we don't have a lot of the other things. We have snow, but it's you can shovel snow and it melts. It goes away.
Yeah.
But we don't have those kinds of wildfires that are just so life-threatening to the people.
To the people, right there. It affects, it affects everybody like that, yeah. And it's like I say, we're not evacuated out of Georgetown, you know. It's like, we just don't have that here, you know. It's different. Because we did get out of Katrina, the fire crews, it's all works in the same way. And we went down to Katrina after Katrina to help out down there, and giving out the trailers as well as putting blue tarps. A crew of our guys were just putting blue tops on everybody's house. And you literally went right down the road, just put a blue top. That's all they did all day, just put blue tops on people's homes. You know, you just can't believe the devastation and stuff.
So beyond the fact that you like the carpentry and you like the job that you do, you also get to help other people.
Yes.
That's always a great feeling.
It's always great. It's always great. And people are always glad to see it because they come to the park to see something. So, you know, and they're there because they want to be, you know. So you get talking with them and find out where they're from and all. So it's really interesting, the folks that you get to talk to, you know, over the years. It's just everybody comes down, because when you're working there in the uniform, they like, oh, and they start talking to you, and it's like, go, you know. It just goes on, and they'll talk to you for hours, you know. And it's like, and that's okay by the boss, because you're all being paid. I mean, I'm not an interpreter ranger, as they say. I'm a woodcrafter, but you're there to represent the Park Service and to inform and educate the people, and that's what we do all the time.
Tell the people in Georgetown to go visit. Thank you so much for coming. This has been great. Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it.
So we've just been talking to Dave Bogdan and his thrill-seeking firefighting, and please plan on joining us on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Thank you very much for joining us today, and bye for now.
I'm Christopher from Den 5, and here is what I want to say. Don't drink and drive, you'll get in trouble.
I'm Matthew from Den 5.
And I want to say is recycle all the time.
Hi, I'm Luke from Den 5. Please be nice to Mother Earth and don't litter.
Hi, I'm Joshua from Den 5, and I would like to stop smoking. It's a bad habit. Hi, my name is Dan, and I'm here to say, please do not be a litter bug. My name is Ty from Den 5. I'm here to say, do not litter. I'm Ryan from Den 5, and I would like to say, wash your hands before you eat. My name is Jim, from Den 5. Keep your earth clean.
I'm Matthew from Den 5. I would like to say no to drugs.
Hello, my name is Connor Miles. I'm in Den 5 in Pack 50, and don't do bad things, do good things.